We have to lead tonight with the wet bag of trash that was the Heisman Trophy finalist list that was released yesterday evening, right before I was going to record this morning's Late Kick Extra podcast. And I figured, you know what, I got a little bit of it out of the way this morning, but it's not all out of my system because I got angrier and angrier. And generally, this is a happy, carefree sort of show. We don't focus on the negatives, we focus on the positives. But when they take a big negative pie and they just shove it right in your face, we have no choice but to talk about it. I want to reiterate. This is a travesty. I use that word about twice a year when it comes to sports, but this is a travesty. I feel bad for Will Anderson. I feel bad for Kenneth Walker. You're looking at the finalists on your screen right now. Bryce Young's going to win this thing by a country mile. Who's going to win it is not up for debate. Who should have gone to New York City very much is. Aiden Hutchinson, got nothing against the kid, and I want to say that right up front because you may think with the very, very spirited case I'm about to make for Will Anderson, it sounds like I'm doing it kind of at the expense of Aiden Hutchinson. No. Both of them should be there. You got C.J. Stroud there, Kenny Pickett there. So there is no Will Anderson on this list. That is a complete shaft job. There is no Kenneth Walker III on that list. Complete shaft job. To be clear, both of them should be there. And if you need to remove someone, like Trey Scott asked earlier today, I would be happy removing C.J. Stroud for Kenneth Walker. I don't need to remove anyone for Will Anderson. He's better than all of them. I'd vote him over any of them. Although Bryce Young's going to win this thing, I'd vote him over any of them. So this is pathetic, is what it was. I want to dive into this, though, because everyone, well, not everyone, I should scratch that. A lot of people last night had outrage about this, but I started to realize as I was scrolling through the reactions out there, a lot of people were angry, like I was, but some of you were asking the wrong question, because I kept looking, got the magnifying glass out, and I realized some of you were asking, how can people who watch college football not vote Will Anderson a Heisman finalist? How can people who watch college football not vote Kenneth Walker? Well, there's your mistake. You made the wrong assumption. You assume all these voters are watching college football. They aren't. They aren't. I've tried to explain this before. I guess this is the perfect encapsulation of what I've tried to tell you. Not everyone who covers this sport is passionate about this sport. Not everyone who covers this sport loves this sport. And as a result, not everyone who has a vote in this thing really even watches a whole lot of college football. You find that so hard to believe, don't you? You find it hard to believe because you love it. I love it. I mean, I watch dozens and dozens of hours of it per week, just like you do. And you assume that if you do that, and you work on a construction site in Selma, Alabama 5 days a week, and this is your respite, this is your reward. If you view it through those lenses, you assume that these guys and girls that get paid to cover what I love, surely they're passionate about it, right? A lot of them are. I don't want to paint with a broad brush. There are a lot of folks who vote on this thing that really eat, sleep, and breathe college football, kind of like you and I do. But there are others who don't. There are a lot of beat writers who cover their team and then also take the time to watch the rest of the sport. And that's a full-time job. Being a beat reporter, whether you appreciate it or not, is a full-time job. And there are some really good ones who cover a myriad of different programs, and they also take the time to watch the rest of the sport. There are other ones who cover their beat, which is their job, and they don't take the time to watch anyone else. I mean, I can tell you right now, I was looking in my DMs last night when the Heisman finalist list came out, and I was really outspoken about it really quickly. I had people reach out to me. I want you to consider what I'm about to say. I had people reach out to me, and they said, I'm a Heisman voter, but if we're being real, I probably shouldn't be. I'm not giving you names for obvious reasons. There were more than one. There was more than one. Who said that? Then there were others who reached out and agreed and said, I take this process seriously. I wish more people did, yada, yada, yada. But the thing that I want to circle back to again is it's not the award I have the problem with. It's the process. It's the voting process that I have a problem with. And I'm arguing about a very specific group here. You know the group I'm talking about. I have kind of told you before, when I go to games, I like to be on the field. I don't like to be in the press box so much, aside from food. One reason is because I just like it on the field more. I think it's a better experience. It's not a better view, but it's a better experience. But number two, it's because I have some of these folks I don't really want to be around all that much. And it really heavily overlaps with the same crowd that tried to cancel the sport a little over a year ago, last year. Those are the folks who probably aren't emotionally invested in this thing to the degree that you really should be to be a Heisman voter. And so the process is the joke. It's not the award. I revere the award and a lot of the guys who have won it. But I don't have a problem with guys like Aiden Hutchinson. I do have a problem with anyone who would be outspoken saying that he belongs in this over, let's say, a guy like Will Anderson, or conversely, anyone who would argue that there is a limit on the number of defensive players who should be involved in this. But Will Anderson, Kenneth Walker, I mean, you're talking about two studs. Saw them both multiple times in person this year, two studs. Jesse is showing you right now, before we move on, if you're watching on YouTube, the comparative statistical analysis between Hutchinson and Anderson. I want you to look at that. I mean, those are wide gaps. 91 to 58 tackles, 52 to 33 solo tackles. How about tackles for loss? Anderson more than doubled Hutchinson up. I want to pause again and tell you, Aiden Hutchinson deserves to be there. I'm just trying to show you how emphatically Will Anderson does too. And he's got the edge on sacks too. And I had someone reach out to me, and they threw, I laugh because it's a joke, they threw the PFF grade in my face for Aiden Hutchinson, quarterback pressures. And he said, essentially, he questioned my intelligence and said, I guess you didn't really see the whole story. Shame on you for being fooled by these low-hanging fruit statistics. What about Hutchinson's PFF grade for quarterback pressures? It's very impressive. This is why, for the third time, I'm telling you, I'm not taking away from Aiden Hutchinson. I do want to remind you of something, though, friend. This is not apples to apples. Will Anderson, you flip on an Alabama game randomly in the third quarter, you know what you can find him doing? You could find him sacking a quarterback. You could find him executing a bull rush technique on a right tackle. But here's something else you found number 31 in Crimson doing a lot this year. Covering. He dropped back in coverage. You don't get a whole lot of quarterback pressures when you drop back in coverage. So there is maybe some intelligence that needs to be questioned there. Or, I don't want to call people stupid, maybe there's just more research that needs to be done. But if you're voting on this thing, got a lot of papers here. If you're voting on this thing, and I kind of put this as part of my platform for my future college football commissioner campaign, I have a very simple college football literacy test that I think each and every person should be able to pass with at least a B grade every year if you want to maintain your Heisman voter status. Because to be honest, if you can't tell me basic things about the sport, and if you don't really watch the sport, you don't have any business voting for awards in the sport. I don't think that's a very radical campaign bullet point, if you will. So I got worked up about that last night. I said, a lot of people in movies say, I said they would never make me cry. I said I would never let them get me worked up about the Heisman. Sure enough, I got worked up about the Heisman. I was mad guy on the internet about the Heisman last night. So initially, I had a problem, but ultimately I realized the same guy is going to win it. So it's really semantics. Let's move on. We probably already spent too much of our emotion on it as it is.